Today, we're going to take a look at how you can quickly make a candy collection game with the Candy Collector Kit. But before we get started, I first just want to show you how to remix a game. So I'm in an example game here so that I'm not the owner, and you can see in the top left corner, there'll be this cloud with an arrow into it. That's the remix symbol, and it'll be on any game that you're allowed to make a copy of it and play with it. And it's the person who makes the game, they get to decide if it should be a remixable game or not. Okay, so if we go back to our main example, as I said, this is the candy collection kit. I will leave a link in the description so that you can find it. If you were to just play through this game, reading the signs start to finish, they'll tell you about what's in the level and a little bit about how to gray box a game. And you should totally read through those and explore it. But I wanted to get you started really quickly. So we're gonna sort of go over some of the easy ways to make a game your own as fast as we can. So go into edit mode and then we're gonna hit stop. And on this board here, you can see some of the parts that make the game go. You don't need to change most of these. This reset player one is what makes this big red button show up on the side, and that thing will reset your candy if you hit it. It's for development. So when you're done the game, make sure you click on this icon on the board here, go to the reset player state UI script and hit disabled, and that will make that button go away so that your players can't accidentally delete their candy. Okay, so there's nothing else in this part of the wall you really need to touch. The art for the candy that shows up at the top of the screen when we return to game, this thing here, is all being controlled by scripts on this candy UI object. So if we open one up, if we go into the UI panel here, you can see candy collector, candy count UI. And if I was to look at that object, you would see it's right here. It just sort of looks like a gray box. So if you explore these panels and labels, you can see how that art is put there, and you can change it if you want to. But again, you don't need to. You can just leave it the way it is. Game ambience is the sound effect that's playing in the background of your game. It kind of sounds like wind, but if you click on the little speaker, then go to the yellow sound component, you can select any sound you want. Just click on the three dots and then you can browse through your options. So the other thing that isn't a setting on this board, but is a setting you should for sure look at, is the mood. Go up to the sun and moon icon here, and you'll see there's a variety of mood presets. You can click through those and see if there's one that fits what you want. Or you can change these numbers manually and mess around and give your game like a cool sky background or whatever. Another thing that I should call out while we're up here in the save menu is if you do make a custom player for your game, you change it here in the player template settings. It's under additional game options. We're not going to do that today because we already have made a copy of the default player that has a script that allows for save data on it, and that's what we want to use. So I'm just going to leave that alone. But this is also where you can change the name and take a new thumbnail for your game. So make sure you do both of those things when you're finished your game. Back in the kit, we have some example templates here. We can see them all if we hit stop, and there's some text explanations of what these are, but you don't need to change them. They're just here for sort of more advanced users who really want to poke around and understand how things work. The only one you really need is, it's actually the same, this candy right here, and I've copied it 3 times and laid it out, and you just need to sort of put those all over your level so that the player can collect them. So if I'll demonstrate that right now. So you can see that I can just go grab the candies, they show up at the top, and they respawn. And each player will see the candies themselves, so you don't have to worry about like one player taking all the candies. Everybody will get them, and you can just decide how you want to place them out. They do have a few settings on them that you could change if you wanted to. So if I go and look at one of them, on the collectible script, you can see that it has a time till it resets. So you could make it take 30 seconds or a minute if you want the player to have to walk through more of the level to find candy instead of just standing in one spot. You can also change how many they get at a time. So I could make this look like a pile of candy corn and then give them 10 candy corn at a time instead of just one if I wanted to change that number and change the piece of art. But other than that, you just copy them everywhere. You don't need to change anything else. On that same script is something called the data ID, which in this case is set to candy corn. It's just whatever we typed here. And that ID is going to be needed for the next thing that I'm going to show you. We didn't want a game where you collected candy, but there was no point to the candy, right? That wouldn't be very much fun. So what I decided to go with is a door that when you pay candy to the door will open. And you could use the door to block anything you want. You could use it to block a secret area, a second level. You could put a Jeep spawner on the other side of it. You could put hats from the template toys or follow pets from down here. And then the player would have to collect candy in order to play with those objects. Okay, so if we're going to take a look at how that's working, the main thing that you're going to need to pay attention here is the purchasable ID. You're going to want to give it a new one. If I make a second door, I should rename it to lock door 2. The collectible cost ID has to be set to that same thing that the candies are. So the candies are called candy corn. So the collectible cost ID must be candy corn. And then the collectible amount is set to 3. So just for demonstration's sake, I'm going to make a copy of the door. There's lots of ways to copy things in Big Bang. You can either hit copy, then paste, or you can hold control down as you drag the little blue box and it'll make another one. So on this copy, we're going to rename it to lock door 2 and we're going to change the cost, and then we could change the art, but I'm just going to change the color to like red. I'm just using the tint here, the color tint setting. The script that actually moves the door is the second script called event driven door, and right now it's moving it up by 80. But let's just move it down by 80 instead. That might actually still not let you through, but we'll try it. You can also use rotation instead. There's some stuff here for that. And then this last item on here is the interaction item that if I click on the 3 little dots, you can see this item here. That's what's showing the cost on the existing door. So if you wanted something with a different cost, you actually need to make a different icon. If you want the icon to reflect the cost. So what did I set the door to? So I set it to 5. So it's still going to say 3 because we haven't changed the icon, but let me just show you how these doors work. Okay, so the first door that was set out in the scene, you can see if we walk up to it, it has a cost of 3. You can notice at the top I have 10 candies right now. If I interact with the door, so I just hit E, it took 3 of my candies from my total and it opened, and it'll still be open the next time I play. That's a permanent unlock. So this door, it's still going to say 3 because we didn't change the icon, but if I've set it up right, this number up here at the top should go down by 5 when we pay for the door, and the door should go into the ground instead of into the air because we changed the value that it was moving by. Yeah, there you go. So we're now down to only 2 candies, which is correct. And I can now jump over that gate. You could also make it rotate open instead if you want. So that's all the features that are in this kit. It's really straightforward, and it's up to you to build an environment to put the candies in. And that could be anything you want. So it could be spooky caves, it could be a neighborhood that's all decorated for Halloween, it could be a haunted graveyard, or a mansion where the candies are hidden throughout the house. You could definitely take some of the interaction mechanics from other games, like the Halloween Fun example. There's graves you could dig in that one, so you could bring those into the scene and then hide the candies at the bottom of the grave, and the player would have to dig the grave open and then jump down into it to get the candies. So there's lots you can do here. You do not need to script to make a game on top of this, and I'm super excited to see what you make.